Mark is getting so red right
I'm
now.
like,
I think I can see the temperature rising. He's like,
the jacket's really thick.
It's really thick.
It's a really
high
thick
quality.
jacket.
Lights,
It's
you
great.
know.
It's a great jacket.
Hello and welcome back to The Dive, driven by Kia, Season 10, Episode 13. Mark is crashing again.
I'm back.
He's made a habit of it.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things.
Doesn't even tell us anymore.
No, he
Shows
doesn't.
up.
We literally saw him like 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
He's like, yo, I'm coming on The Dive.
I sent a Slack to the producer yesterday, or maybe 2 days ago.
Can't verify that.
Our cameras were
You literally
rolling.
can. That's what's
Nope.
beautiful about.
Unverifiable information.
I'm gonna take an old message and edit it and say like,
Yeah, exactly.
I know that was the one I sent. Yeah.
Yeah, you act like we didn't have to redo the intro with you dragging a chair through the doorway and
Yeah.
just pulling up.
Yeah, I was walking down the hall and I was like, "Oh, they're doing the dive right now. I guess I'll invite myself on." No, I actually did want to come on, given that there was a conversation this week when we debuted the fanless RGA look, and it was something that we had wanted to actually talk
Riot
about.
Games Arena.
Yeah, I got to be careful. Yeah, all the internal terms.
Yeah.
But no, that was
Big wig over here.
that was the main reason I wanted to pop on, given that the community was talking about it. Figured I'd have a convo with you guys too.
Cool.
Well, I don't know if there's anything else you want to say at the top. You're
Spill the beans,
Yeah,
sir.
so
What do you
how about
have
it?
to preach to the people?
Well, it's first off, I think it's something that we wanted to talk about much earlier in the year. You guys talking about me crashing multiple times. It's because we had the vision for a long period of time, but the pieces kind of came in one after the other. At the end of LTA, for what 2026 was supposed to look like, it was Brazil finals actually, and so pivoting to LCS, and then that means domestic roadshows for LCS and trying to do multiple of them. It took us a little longer to get all the pieces together, even if we had the plan the whole time. And we didn't want to talk about the downsides without the upsides with the trade-offs that we were making. So now that it's like kind of all out there, people know, hey, finals at ASU at Mullet, that's sick. And then also, oh, we're doing some of these sorts of decisions in order to get there.
Yeah, you talked about it on the last episode that you came on a little bit, that there basically would be some trade-offs, right? Like there would be some trade-offs to try to have the additional roadshow, because obviously pretty much most of the regions, at least for a bit, scaled back to like, okay, they're just going to do the end of the year. The world's qualifying finals is going to be a roadshow, and then they're going to do less. And then obviously LEC and LCK, have like gone and started to do their, T1 homestand and the K Corp roadshow and stuff. So we're trying to do more as well. So this is kind of that trade off, I guess, is that we're not having fans. And I think a lot of people, at least from what I saw online, were like, well, why even bother, or why are we having it there without having fans? Like, why does that really save money? And I think that's probably what you want to talk about.
Yeah, because I think I wrote one reply like in advance on Twitter.
I retweeted you.
Yeah, let's go.
expecting a raise.
I respect. I slip you a 10 under the table. Good boy. You get nothing. No, but it was one of those things where I don't pay for Twitter Blue. I'm not going to pay for Twitter Blue. And so if I want to have like a more in-depth conversation, it's not going to be on Twitter to talk about that stuff. But I do think it's an interesting conversation, so fans can give us like appropriate feedback on that's too far, or we actually would rather go further, or whatever. Because when people were like, what are the costs you're saving for fans or versus online? And I think that's the interesting part, because for fans to come in the door, you have to pay for things like janitorial, security, the actual events people to get them in the door and make sure everything's going smoothly. You have
Fire marshal thing.
Fire
I always
marshal.
remember as a
Oh
big-
yeah, make sure no one's going where they shouldn't go. You have just a lot of costs that do add up, and that's something that you can save on if you're then trying to get all this combined together. Go, let's go on the road. People then say, well, why not just go fully remote? But there's a lot of things that go into a show, regardless of how it's happening, that you are going to have to account for, such as your entire control room, broadcast, the talent. You have referees, audio, QC, all these different teams that are still working together to make a remote show happen. And so the calculation that we're making is like, how far is it worth going? And when do you start really compromising the experience? And for us, it's not enough of a save in our mind to go fully remote and lose the interviews you get after the games, the ability to record podcasts after a
Like
series,
pros, all the content with social media people, all the shorts
socials
and
are here,
everything.
shorts. We have Julian, Pastry's been working on missing ping and these sorts of things. And so you start to have pretty large opportunity costs across the product when you start not meeting in person.
It's also, I feel like, a very different game. And you can kind of see it when Team Liquid and FlyQuest are playing online or they're playing in
There's some
studio.
recent data online games.
And even when there aren't fans, I do think in person is even still more impressive. than like pure online broadcast to me. At least that's just my...
Even on pros, they were talking about like playing for EWC qualifiers on pros. The pros were saying that it felt like they're just kind of playing scrims, and that's kind of like how they were feeling about it. Like playing online doesn't feel, it felt very different than how they prepare and play, for
pressure
for an on stage event. It is a different vibe for sure.
Yeah, and for sure having fans would elevate that even further. You would have a roar and a crowd and these things when you take your headset off. And
the crowd noise is my number one most missed thing. Sure,
I definitely feel that. And I think as much as we can keep the level up, that's what we want. So, players having to come in, have their prep, have their things, so that way when, fans come back, because they will be back for playoffs and these sorts of things, that it's not as much of a gap from being like, oh, I was in my bedroom for the last 3 months and now I have to learn to play on a stage again. So these are the sorts of trade-offs that we're trying to make in order to get to the end goal, which is the roadshows and the things that I think everyone here agrees is like the creme de la creme of esports.
Yeah. I mean, it's the roadshows are. I mean, the atmosphere is just really, really fun, right? Like when there's a ton of people and it's a really good vibe, and especially when the games are good, then you do actually get that kind of roar of the crowd and everything. So do you want to talk a little bit about the roadshow that obviously it's been announced it's going to be at ASU's Mullet Arena? We've been doing our ticket push and stuff.
Buy tickets.
Sorry. Check the link in the description if you haven't already got your tickets. It's going to be Saturday, June 13th and Sunday, June 14th, 2026, of course. And it is going to be spring finals at ASU's Mullet Arena. Should be a lot of fun. But that is kind of the reward we are getting for the kind of like drawback or trade-off or whatever you want to call of not having fans every week.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the big things too from bringing back more road shows. It's also, historically there was two kinds of shows the LCS produced. There's like full studio, 10,000 person arena. And those were the only two models we were really using over the last years, excluding COVID era, like that was it. And what we've been working very, very hard on across the last year and a half or so is different kinds of shows. So that way this show, which is the most extreme end of what we produce, at least domestically, it's not always in those sorts of stages, because then you're kind of also locked to certain demographics and things. And getting on the road to us meant kind of trying to meet fans where they are more often. So we're not just going to the same East Coast, West Coast, Texas. If we want to get to more places, our show needs to be able to adapt to the different locations that we're going to. So going to a college campus, this show is like a 2,500 person capacity. So still pretty big, way bigger than a typical weekend at LCS, 10 times bigger, literally, basically.
Yeah.
But that also means that we're going to need to scale the production to match that in different ways too. So it is something that we are flexing our muscles on to be able to hit all these different kinds of shows in the future. And I think America's Cup is another example of a totally different production model.
So does that mean then the goal is to assuming we're continuing this forward, summer is the more traditional big scale, year capping event, right? Where maybe you do go to the bigger markets. And then assuming this continues into next year, could fans expect the spring to be in some of the more underserved areas where they haven't gotten necessarily a roadshow yet? Yeah,
I think that's one of the main things we're looking at is how do we get on to these sorts of places more often? Would we ever go to, I'm just going to pull one out of my hat, but Minneapolis, are you ever going to Minneapolis with what a summer finals typically look like?
Leaked?
No, that's not leaked. I regret it immediately. But just that kind of idea, I think we are seeing how this goes as we expand the different kinds of shows, and we're going to be very receptive to fan feedback about this sort of stuff. But yeah, that is the goal, and to continue to be able to deliver the LCS more regionally.
I like that a lot, because one thing that, I think anybody who's been to one of these shows loves it, right? Going and traveling somewhere for an event, whether you're playing or casting or just, as a spectator, it's super fun. The energy is really good. And so I think it's worthwhile if some games or some weeks you don't have fans at the studio to save money, because there's, there are still games here that will have fans. And so I think that pretty much people in the area have been able to come to the LCS a lot, whereas other places haven't really been able to go to events if it's not close to them. And I know that we did an event in North Carolina a couple years ago. And
Raleigh.
Yeah, Raleigh. So many people there were just like, wow, there's never any events here. And just so many people showed up. So I think it's really special for those people to just get an event, if you're in a spot where you didn't think you were going to get one. So I would expect a lot of people to come out, if they're local, maybe they used to play League and they're like, LCS is doing a finals, I'll come check it out. So I am excited for it.
Yeah, from the fan perspective, the fans that we get here in LA, like every single weekend, you have a lot of opportunities. But like you're saying, the fans that don't get a lot of opportunities, it really is a big experience to experience like the community around you and just like know and feel that there's so many other people that really, are passionate about this game. And so I feel like those moments are super worth kind of saving up, some people that have a lot of opportunity to get those, and then going out and on the road and delivering it to some people that don't.
Yeah, for sure. It's not like we're going to pull back on LA shows. There's no plans on that completely. Like we'll have opening weekends and playoffs and these sorts of things that are important for giving also the players a chance to meet the fans here too, and this kind of like community that we have in LA. But to your point, like it's a lot more to ask someone to be like, hey, come check this thing out, when you have to buy a plane ticket to some place and make it a part of a vacation, all that stuff, versus if we're able to get out on the road more, it's like, oh, it's like a couple hour drive maybe at most, or it's actually in my neighborhood, like that is a huge gap that we're trying to close in terms of like activation energy to get someone to one of these. And that even gets into like our ticket pricing. That's something that other people were talking about, like we're not gouging people. We're not a tour. We're not like Taylor Swift eras, like we're very much about trying to put on a show for fans who love League. So.
In Minneapolis next.
Which Mark has personally guaranteed here live on the dive.
I expect a lot.
The 2027 announcement. Wow.
I'm going to get so many ads on Twitter from people being like, I do live in Minneapolis. You should come here.
Get your hotel rooms now before the prices go
also,
up.
Since we know it's going to be in Minneapolis, will you be selling these new jackets that I haven't seen before?
No comment on
in Minneapolis.
I just found this at my desk. I don't know. I just looked nice and I put it on.
Let me get one. I want one.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe you will
where
soon.
are
I
the
don't know.
dive member LCS jackets?
They only had one. It was a medium.
Keep them for yourself.
And,
I do have one pressing question that I think's been on a lot of people's minds. For the Mullet Arena, will the ASU frat leader be making an appearance?
what is the context on that for anyone who doesn't know? Because you had to explain
I think
it to
everyone
me.
except you guys know.
It was us three who were lost.
Yeah, I'll let you figure that one out.
Yeah, I'll do some research and see if we can
make it happen.
Just see if we can
the
get
fans
it.
want it.
Yeah,
we can bring in a new demographic.
Hell yeah, we'll look into it. I'll do some reach outs. We'll see if he wants to. I don't know. Show up on the cast. We'll figure it out.
Dude, if Mark is getting so red right
I'm
now,
like,
I can see the temperature rising. He's like,
the jacket's really thick.
It's really thick.
It's a really
high
thick
quality.
jacket.
Lights,
It's great. It's a great jacket.
It's like, was this in the news for the wrong reason?
Yeah, I was like, what do you? No.
I don't know anything about it, so I can't help you here.
No, Tim felt it too. He's like, wait a second, is there something wrong?
Well, I'm just defaulting to trust that Meteos wouldn't be,
I mean, as long as you're not worried about getting frame mugged, you're probably fine.
We'll do some. I guess he can do some frame mogging or whatever, and looks maxing and all that stuff. Yeah.
Have him looks maxing with the LCS pros.
Get Griffin up there. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, that's
Perfect.
good. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for coming on, Mark.
Thank you for coming on, Mark.
Get
the hell out.
Thanks you guys
any
for hosting
final
me.
words?
No, it was really cool.
Besides the promise of Minneapolis?
Yep. Look out for Minneapolis tickets for sure.
Yeah.
No, it's just thanks for having me on again. Always nice to pop on and be able to have the deeper conversations.
Yep,
use you guys
next
as a
week.
platform. I think this should be it for a little bit. I don't have anything else on the radar.
You don't want to come by to say hi to your friends?
Yeah, I was gonna
messed up,
say
Mark.
when he was like, "Oh yeah, well I DM'd to the producer." Like, you've known us for like 20 years, bro. Like, you can't even say.
Do you guys check? Are you on?
It's too many levels down.
Would
the
you
chain
check
now,
Slack?
you know?
Crazy.
Would you check Slack? Yes or no on a
I
Tuesday?
check Slack.
I check Slack.
First of all, yes.
right.
Slack has notifications.
Yeah, Mark.
My bad.
Second of all, you forgot where you came from, bro.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start stopping by more often.
Yeah, you should.
You know what? Every
Yeah.
5 minutes at the
Yeah.
top.
Good.
Come back to the street.
See you guys next week.
We can submit
Perfect.
fan questions for the commish. Could
You know
be a
what?
weekly segment.
Since this was a conversation point, if there is actually a conversation, we can follow
Oh,
up.
there you
We can
go.
see.
Submit your questions for MarkZ about the Minneapolis details
Yeah.
and the jackets.
Yeah, the important, the hard hitting
Yeah,
questions.
exactly.
Get in the
And
comments.
the
And if
frame
you,
mogging.
if you DM him, he'll give you discounts for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, sweet. Thanks, Mark. We are going to go to a quick break, and then we'll be back with no Mark right after this.
Dude, this lobby is kind of comfy. It feels different.
If this is different, I like different. I'm staying right here.
Are you guys serious? We're about to get into game.
Emily, let us enjoy it!
You guys need to lock in. Maybe this'll help.
Oh, no, not already.
Welcome back to the Dive, driven by IKEA. All right, we want to talk a little bit about champion diversity. There's been a lot of talk about it online, about playing, off meta stuff, about playing off role, champions with low win rate. Obviously, there's a lot of different examples of it, but Drew Levin's been out there talking to people and kind of giving the Riot POV, or at least his POV on it. There was, Lorlo. We talk about him sometimes, and I love Lorlo as a streamer. He plays a lot of off meta stuff. He had gotten temp bans for playing Blitzcrank top AP. There was, a post that got quite a bit of traction. Someone was a GM player saying they wanted to play Kalista support, and the lobby got terminated once they picked it, and they got Q ban. This is not like your account's deleted, but like you can't play for a bit because you tried to play off meta. And I don't know the exact details on how it works. I think currently I had read that it was like you need champion mastery 4 at least before this might be stopped, and then a certain amount of people in the lobby have to report you for it to be like an instant lobby termination. But for me, I just hear this and I just think it's sad because I feel like League is already losing so much of its creativity with the rise of stat sites. I briefly mentioned this last week with how TFT had moved away from allowing stat sites to pull all this data, so people just didn't feel like they had to pick the highest win rate augment. They could just kind of think more for themselves. And I feel like League is moving so far into you must autopilot, click highest win rate champ with highest win rate item, and I think that is kind of sad. And to me, to see Riot enforcing that, I am just like, damn, I just feel like that is so far removed from the roots of League and from a lot of my most fun experiences, which was experimenting. And there's a lot of examples that people have posted online. I think I saw Diamond Prox was tweeting about like, hey, what about, like Nidalee and like these different jungle champions, which weren't jungle champions, but people experimented and found out that they worked. And even for my own experiences, like there was a lot of champions that I played in roles which were not considered good, but then later became meta, and like I had a lot of fun with those. I had a huge kick where I was playing at the time, I don't know, it was like high diamond, and I was playing just a ton of Kled, and I was playing Kled in like every role I got, and I had like a 60% win rate with it, playing like jungle Kled and support Kled and stuff. And like, am I gonna get banned for that? Like that to me is just so sad that we've gotten to this point where it's like enforced meta adherence almost, and it just feels like, I don't know, if it's at the point where you need mastery 4 or you have to play a meta champion, then why am I even allowed to click these champions if it could get me temp banned or get the lobby deleted? I just feel like it goes against the nature of creativity and expression in the game, where especially in a game where there's 170 something champions.
Yeah, I definitely hear you. I think that is valid. I've seen a lot of discussion on Twitter, and I actually kind of have a different perspective on it, where so one thing for me that's always been sad for League for years is that people talk about how the game is really toxic, right? And people, I think anyone who's played solo queue has been on the receiving end, or maybe the giving end sometimes as well, of a lot of toxicity. And so I think that I've had games where people will just hold lobbies hostage, and my only personal experience with the lobby termination was when somebody on my team locked in Ghost Cleanse Nunu mid and said they were going to end, and then the lobby disappeared, and I was super happy about it. I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Thank God I don't have to waste my time. Even if the game would play out and he'd get banned, it's still like, it's not how I want to be spending my time, right? And so I think that there's a cost to everything, right? It's like, obviously you don't want false positives. You don't want people who genuinely think they're playing something real to not be able to. And I think for your Kled example, you were playing it everywhere. So you would have Overmastery 4 on Kled. And
but my understanding is if 3 people report you, it terminates the lobby.
I don't know exactly how it's tuned.
I don't know exactly how it works either.
Yeah, I mean, what we did see from...
If that's true, that's a bummer.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in a way that I do think, if there's 3 people reporting somebody in Champion Select, that should probably have some weight to it. I don't think it should necessarily instantly be terminated every single time, but I think that giving players a way to protect themselves from getting griefed or held hostage in Champ Select is really important. I think that is a good thing for the game. I'm all in favor for anything that's trying to like give people a better experience playing the game. And I think there are some costs for sure. And as far as like, stifling creativity or whatnot, it's like if somebody's locking in Yuumi top or something, it's just not good. And I think a lot of time when people do that, they don't have the best intentions either. And so I'm kind of the opinion that I think there's probably going to be more cases of, like disaster games not happening because of this system than people who are genuinely just trying to play something off meta that they somehow don't have any mastery for on the account, but they're sure it's a real pick kind of deal. So I think the downside is kind of being magnified a little bit too much. And I think there's a lot of upside for, doing this kind of system.
Yeah, I think it is like a lot of these things, the nuances in where you draw the line basically and what sort of parameters are being put on it. There's lots of examples that I immediately started thinking of because I saw some of the posts and some of the discussion from people on it, and it seemed like this Callista support guy genuinely really thought it is a good counter pick. And some like stats of overall win rate of it being very low are kind of used, and then sometimes like stats, just because something has a low win rate doesn't net like that is not the end all be all of is something good. Like maybe it's being used improperly, or not in counter pick scenarios, or all these different things. And like Diamond Procs weighing in on it was hit pretty hard home to me too, because I always remember like the Wizard Lizard. He was one of the early innovators of using alternate builds, and even in pro play and stuff. And
that was Darian.
Or Darian, he was on his team.
Yeah.
He was on his team for it. And it's just like I've been in scenarios where I'm playing in a game and like someone on my team has not seen my build before, and they're like spamming my item, and I'm like this is the highest win rate item on the entire champion, but yet people think that you're trolling because you're not doing stuff that they've seen before. And so some like edge cases like that I would like to account for. And I know they have the mastery 4 is what it was set up before. Lorlo tweeted out that he's talking to Drew Levin at the moment, and they're probably reducing it to mastery 2 or something for next patch. And so they're going to be calibrating in some of these parameters. Because I kind of there are points on both sides where I feel are strong for both of you guys, where there's a lot of ways for people to troll, but I would like to save my time when it's pretty obvious and that a champion select is going to get sabotaged. But on the other side, I always talk about I love being one of those like creative players and trying to do alternate champions or build paths or whatever it is in League is one of the fun parts of games. And yeah, you don't want it to get reduced to, if you're not picking something that has a good win rate, then you're literally going to get banned from playing the game for a while, or Q banned, or whatever it is. Those types of things all need to be obviously dialed within reason. And so it is hard to make an automatic process that's going to account for all these things. So it definitely, at the very least, would take time and take some nuance. And even then, yeah, there can be some misses, but
and there's some champions that I think are just like generally bad picks in a role, but can actually be quite good, given the right matchup, right? Like I like playing Smolder. And Smolder top is pretty trash, but there are certain matchups, like when people play like Cassante Blind or Yorick, you can stack off ghouls in some of these matchups where it's like, it's actually super free. You get infinite free stacks, and then you're just playing kind of like a fed Smolder, right? But it's like, it's super low pick rate top and it's low win rate top, right? Like it is like, if you're just looking at overall data, it's like a really bad pick. But, it can be quite strong in specific situations and stuff, right? Like even, I don't know if it's being based, because like the kind of like win rate posting that Drew Levin did, I don't know if it's more based on win rate or if it's pick rate or if it's a combination or what. But even like Silas has some of the most like sharp counter picks in the game top, but it's super low pick rate top, right? So like I don't know does it have to be above a certain pick rate or a certain win rate? Like that's just not something that I feel like players should even have to really consider, I guess. But I mean, I think Riot has made great strides in like a lot of the automated punishments, which I think is really, really good. And to me, I guess I just always feel like I am on the side of judge players by how they play in game, not necessarily what they pick, out game, right? Because it's like, how many games have I had where someone goes like Ghost Cleanse, Nunu, or Yuumi top or whatever? I think I've literally never had a Yuumi top in any of my games ever. But Ghost Cleanse, Nunu, and these types of things, you do get occasionally, and it's like clear the person's going to run it down, and then they run it down. But those games, at least speaking from my own experience, are like incredibly rare. Whereas the amount of games I have where someone picks something completely meta and then just like has one bad death and then just like soft runs it down the whole rest of the game and ruins your game is like pretty high, right? Like comparatively. So to me, it's like how much are we really protecting? Like, I don't know what percentage of games you guys would think you actually experience the literal like Ghost Cleanse Nunu intends to run it down from level 1, actually runs it down. But I would think that would be a tiny percentage. Whereas like soft inting and stuff is something that people talk about all the time. And so to me, it's like preventing someone from playing off meta with the, chance that they might be like actually trying to run it down versus just focusing on what I know they're already trying to improve it. And I think it has gotten a lot better. Just like punishing players for like their play in game. I think I would just like way rather just let people play what they want. But then if someone locks this in, then punish them, right? If they're running it down in game, like that's the kind of thing that I would really like. I just never want to get to a place where it feels like so meta enforced that you can only play the most played champions and stuff, or like you're in danger, right? Like,
yeah, I agree for the most part. I think that I wouldn't expect it would happen that often because, to the example of the Kalista support guy whose lobby got terminated, it's like the conditions are, I don't think it even has to do with like how much the champion is played in a role. Maybe that's a small part of it, but I think it's like you're master on the champion. So it's like, have you played this champion before? Because I've seen like Reddit posts about champion, like people first timing champions in ranked in general. I would probably be on the side of like, you shouldn't even be allowed to pick a champion in ranked if you don't have a certain level of mastery. So I think, but I mean, that's just my opinion. That's not like a Riot stance or anything like that. I would even be okay with that. So I think that if somebody is picking something that they really haven't played before, it's like you have to have low mastery on an off meta pick and your teammates are reporting you. And so to me, that's like a pretty conditional thing. I don't think that many lobbies are going to be getting terminated because people are picking something in good faith and just like, hey, I can't play my champion because even if it's just mastery 4, which is getting lowered, it's like that doesn't take that many games. It kind of shows that you have played the champion to the level of like you're not just going to hard feed on it.
Yeah, I guess.
Personally, I don't like playing normal games ever because I've just been I've played ranked forever, and so if I wanted to try something like actually, I don't know if it was this year or last year, but we were having a conversation about the Grandmaster Yone jungle player. Because I played against him and I was like, oh, that seems fun. But then I'm torn between like, do I spend time in a normal game so that I don't get banned for trying this? Is this going to like dissuade people from trying stuff? And obviously you're of the opinion, well, you haven't played Yone jungle before, so I don't want that on my team. And honestly, that's fair. It's gonna be worse than me playing Rek'Sai or Volibear or something.
But also at the end of the day, it's a video game, right? Like it's kind of for fun.
Exactly. It's like, going to the level of like giving someone a punishment of ban seems like pretty extreme.
Whereas I don't know how common that one is because I've only really heard of Lorelo actually getting banned for Blitzcrank top, and so I don't know all the details, but I did hear that he had some a string of fairly rough Blitzcrank top games before he got a win on it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess I can't speak to it unless I know more information. But to me, it didn't seem like it was just like hey, I just locked in this off meta pick and I got banned instantly because I would imagine that's
it's just the Kalista post that I saw that like I don't know how often this happens to your point, right? Like it was just that Drew Levin was responding to that, which obviously gave it attention. But it was just someone who was saying, hey, I'm a GM player. I tried to lock this in and the lobby got terminated and I got like a Q suspension or whatever.
He said Q ban, but
like a Q ban. Like so you can't queue back up. The lobby got terminated when he like clicked it or whatever in champ select. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just of the opinion that it's like if Riot is going to take the stance that you are not allowed to play something without X mastery unless it's off roll, then you just shouldn't even be able to lock it in, right? Like why else would that be okay if it's punishable?
Yeah, I mean everything comes with trade-offs, I think.
Yeah.
Because I can say, anecdotally, it was a while ago, but Korean solo queue, it's not moderated by the system, but it's moderated like by the players themselves that if you pick something off meta over there's like a really good chance you're just going to get griefed hard. Like the team will just give up because you pick some off meta champion. They're like, this guy's not trying to win. I don't want to play.
It's also so funny though when you look at like owner first time Mundo at Worlds and won, right? And people were like, "Oh, he should have got lobby terminated," you know, like that's his first time. They're having to tell him the abilities. And there's examples of that in pro play too, where people literally win, they don't scrim it, they don't whatever. They're like, "Oh, I think it's actually a good pick here," right? Some champions aren't that hard to play. Like, you know, and sometimes playing meta.
Like Kalista support, I'm sure most people locking it in are going to do fine.
I mean, well, it's like Azir is like the most meta champion ever, but like if I'm locking in Azir first timing, that feels like more of a grief than me playing like off meta. I'm gonna play Lulu mid. Like I know someone else was posting about they got their lobby terminated from like playing Lulu mid or whatever, right? And it's like, oh, I was trying to counterpick this Akali. You never know how you know if these are all true or if people are just making it up. But I just thought it was interesting that you know, again, I don't want to say it's Riot but it's like if a Riot employee, and Drew Levin is kind of like the face of the crusade against, you know, account sharers and stuff, right? Because he posts about it a lot. If a Riot employee is going to take that stance of like, oh hey, like, you know, you shouldn't be doing this, and at least like posting the win rates and play rates and stuff, that makes it appear as though you're discouraged from playing something that like is that style, even if you know it's good.
Yeah. To be fair,
good.
You know, I saw his reply, and his reply was like the screenshot of like Yuumi top and Kalista support right next to each other. And if I got a Yuumi top drafted in my lobby, I would probably dodge that lobby.
Well, and he's saying that Yuumi has a better win rate than Kalista, so wouldn't it be better to have that or whatever?
Yeah, well, and I'm saying I would dodge the Yuumi. Yeah. Like if I got there are scenarios, and that
Yuumi top feels like a clear intent.
It's indisputable that if
some people would view other things that same way, and so I'm totally with you guys. I think maybe the system's not calibrated correctly, but I'm just of the opinion that like protect the players that want to play and win the game from the numerous bad actors that like kind of show up a lot in solo queue. So I think if the system can do that, it's good. If it's like getting false positives, it's obviously bad.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they'll fix it, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think the intention is you can't play anything off meta or you're gonna lobby terminate. It's just, you know, clearly disruptive behavior should not make people waste their time.
Yeah, and this is for ranked play. And like I'm saying, if I see a Yuumi top on my team, there's a high chance, if no one else is dodging, like, you know, maybe I'm waiting till the last second, but and they're trying to discourage people from dodging. You know, people don't want to have to remake lobbies and waste lots of time, which I also agree with. And I'm only going to dodge lobbies if I think it is like unwinnable or someone is, to me, I would think clearly trolling.
Yeah.
Then again, you know, I have had people like spam pinging me, like I said, for playing something that they haven't seen before and they don't think is good, but I know is good.
Yeah.
And so there's some moments like that, but that's why I started out by saying it's all in how you calibrate these things, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. If you can do it perfectly, then everyone's pretty happy, right? But it's always tough. It's like with dodges or with this, it's like, is it, you know, should someone be getting reported for picking AD when it's like already 4 AD and they have a Malphite, you know what I mean? Like, oh, like that's a horrible pick for your draft.
If my 4th and 5th picks don't hover their champion and grief the team comp like that, then I think, yeah. I think it should be permanently banned. I think thrown in jail. I think completely thrown in jail.
Yeah, fair.
Unforgivable.
Well, Jynxzi started playing with I guess he was getting coached by TLAW. He's a big streamer. I don't really know much about him, but I know that they were posting some clips of him playing Garen and stuff, and this kind of created a controversy because he was playing on like a clearly purchased account that I guess was already in gold or something like that in his first games. And so, you know, a lot of people kind of caught on to that and were unhappy about it. And, you know, we're calling for him to get banned. And so the account did get banned. And then I guess Riot then gifted him a new account with Iron or Bronze or whatever MMR for him to play on. So he's still able to play. But I know this is something you want to talk about a bit.
Yeah. So I didn't watch all the stream, but I did hear about it. And I think obviously buying an account is bad. I think another streamer may have given him the idea that you should just buy an account and go into rank because the leveling process is boring. It wasn't me. I'm not gonna say who it was. But I don't think there was any malice there. I think he just wanted to like play the game and give his stream good content. And I do like that other streamers from other games still look at League as a game that's really high skill and something that they want to try out because League's been around for such a long time at this point. And I think it's fun to watch those to some degree. It's like watching him get his first kill on Garen. It's like, I think that in a way, people take for granted how hard League is as a game because, even just controlling the character, like they're adding WASD. I think it's enabled in ranked this patch. But I think for a lot of, like most of League's history is like controlling your character is super hard if you've never played an RTS or another MOBA. It's like clicking to move. That's like, it's so foreign for a lot of people, but all of us who've played League for a long time, it's just kind of natural. It feels so normal. So I think it is cool. You kind of get perspective on seeing, where people start out, and then you get to watch their journey and you see a lot of stuff that you learned as a new player coming in. And he's got to show the game to a pretty new audience. So I thought it was exciting to see, and I'm curious how his journey is going to go with it, because I saw him like ranting about junglers being like, so what? They're just running around third partying everyone. It's shooter games. It's like you're in a 1v1. Some guy comes and gets you. It's like yeah, that's the whole role. That's why people hate him. So it's just fun. I'm looking forward to seeing how he does.
I'm definitely all for, especially like big creators, trying League and like you're saying, kind of being able to relive the early process of learning a game is really fun. But I guess I blame whoever told him to buy an account, not only because obviously buying an account is against terms of service, but also that's not going to be fun or give good content to his stream. You're going to be terrible compared to gold. First time player going into gold rank games. Not only are you ruining everybody else, a lot of the other people's games. I guess the people on the other team are getting a free win, so great for them or whatever, but you're going to be ruining so many games, and it's not going to be fun for viewers to watch. Like, you're just going to be a clueless, like, chicken with their head cut off walking around in even a gold game. People are going to murder you and stuff. So I was like, whoa, like, I don't know. Definitely don't do that. If you're doing the learning process of learning a new game, and this is something that also kind of shined the spotlight on, the onboarding process for League is still needs a lot of work. This has been something that has been looked at and focused on for a long time. But having a good process of being able to learn the game in a good environment and like work your way up and hopefully be surrounded by other people that are at least new to the game and learning at a similar place and like trying new things. And stuff I feel like that would be way better content.
Yeah, I mean, definitely don't buy an account. It's like, it wasn't good advice for him.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just pointing out, I don't think he was trying to be malicious, so he probably just didn't know better. But obviously, he got punishment, got the account banned, and then Riot gave him an account that's lower rated that he can play on. So,
how do you guys feel about? So it's kind of interesting because I feel like, if you don't want people to sell accounts, obviously there's lots of reasons that they shouldn't. I don't understand kind of like why Riot doesn't just sell leveled accounts. You know what I mean? It's like WoW for a long time, the leveling process was sacred, and then they just started selling boosts and whatever, so you can just like insta be max level and whatnot, right? And a lot of games do that kind of thing where it's like you can just have an accelerated process, you can slowly level your account, or you can like buy a skip basically, right? And so it's like, to me, if unless Riot just doesn't want people to have max like multiple accounts, if maybe that's the issue, but it's like Riot could just sell level 30 accounts or whatever it is that you need, and maybe that would kind of like solve part of the problem anyway and make more money from them.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about Drew Levin, and I actually saw him tweet about this exact thing. Someone made that suggestion. It's like, why don't you just sell linked accounts that's like, similar MMR to your main, and punishments affect all accounts. And he said like that was a pitch, but he said some of the issues are that, at the top of the ladder, it would break down because rather than Viper having the top 3 accounts, he would have the top infinite accounts. And then also there was legal issues that he didn't want to go into, which I don't know anything about. But it shows that it is something that has been considered. And if it was an easy fix, then they would probably do it. So I assume there's some issues with it that are not easy to see on the surface.
I'm just thinking right now, and like if it seems like it could be rough either way. If like a new person buys an account, obviously there's going to be a big learning curve, and like you're just going to be able to jump in and then.
But you're going to be in Iron 4 instantly, so it's like that's fine.
Even where an account starts, there's definitely way further to go down. I feel like the
first placement game though, you literally start in like Iron 4 now with new accounts.
Well, maybe it's only a bigger problem than if people who have already played before, because nobody likes Smurfs, and so every bot account is going to be, someone who's speeding up the way through Smurfing up, and then it's kind of like Riot is like giving you Smurf accounts basically.
Yeah.
And so that that could be an issue. I was thinking it might also be an issue the other way, because I was like, oh, like even like a fresh account, I feel like someone who's never played before, if they bought one, the people that are at, like in chess basically, if you start at like 1200 or something, I don't even know what it is in chess, but like even the baseline, people, you go way below that, right? Like real quick.
I know all about that. I'm a hard stuck 700 chess player, and I'm just that's where I am.
Yeah,
I don't get better.
in League, it's kind of interesting because I think it's pretty different than chess actually. Because my understanding is that the new ones, like, because I played on an account that I had for a long time, and last time I played it was, I don't know, Diamond something. And I hadn't played it on in years. And so I guess at a certain point, I assumed the MMR decayed. But not only was it decayed, literally my first placement game was Iron 4. So from an account that was last played in Diamond. And when you look at people who are in Iron 4, though, to actually maintain Iron 4 with like a number of games, you have to have like a 10% win rate. It is like hard to be in Iron 4. Iron 4 is like not 1200 MMR starting place. Iron 4 is like, you're basically like 0 MMR or like 100 MMR. Like to get to Iron 4 and stay there, you have to have like a 10% win rate or something like that, I think. So
right. So you're saying that a new account plays in the lowest MMR. Your first game is the lowest MMR
that's
available.
my understanding. Even this account that I had that was Diamond that I hadn't played for a couple years, my first placement game was I was playing against Iron 4 players.
And so I do know that there are systems in place. One of the reasons why I don't know if this is like the whole reason, but one of the reasons why they like having people level up accounts is because like while you're playing those normal games to work up to ranked, it is measuring how good of a player it thinks you are in those games. Yeah. And so it won't start you in Iron 4 if it's clear that you're a player who knows what they're doing in games. Like if you're just dropping bombs every single game, going like 20-0 in your normal games, it's not going to be like, he's probably never played before. So I think, I don't know the details of it, but I think there's some degree of,
soft MMR.
I wonder if
there's some way to judge it and try to calibrate it, just because nobody wants Smurfs ruining games. It's not great for anyone.
No, I fully agree with that. I wonder if there's a way that they could like calibrate it. I mean, maybe they've already thought through all this, but in my mind, then it's like, okay, you get like buy a level 30 account, but you have to play like 10 games or whatever first instead of, I don't know how many games it even takes still. I haven't leveled an account in years, but like, you play those that are like your calibration games, and then you can go into ranked or whatever, or like 5 or whatever the appropriate amount of placement games is in normals or something to kind of like calibrate for your general MMR, and then it pushes you towards that. Maybe there's some sort of solution, but I don't know. It's just something I was thinking about. New patch though to talk about League 26.9.
Big patch.
New season, baby.
And it is huge.
Even bigger. A whole new season and Apex tiers reset MMR. So we get a fresh start basically at the top, and I've already seen like multiple like pro players and stuff, and people posting match histories of going on these mega win streaks and stuff like that. So like at the beginning, you could get just random Joe Bob who was a Diamond 1 like 90 LP player, or you could literally get if you're in Korea, the Faker on your team at the exact same
Korea
team.
didn't reset.
Exactly.
So probably not Korea.
Just in Europe.
The point stands. And I haven't seen like a lot of it yet, but I guarantee you we're going to see tons of these screenshots of people being like, look at these guys were all challenger. They were 3000 LP split 1, and I have these first-time master players on my team. How is this fair? And it's like, well, this is what you asked for. This is actually what you asked for. This is what you wanted, and that's just a price for it because it'll get fixed eventually. But yeah, if you're queuing up at the beginning, it's going to be hard. You're going to be playing against people that are way better than you, and the teams will be very imbalanced. So, do it at your own risk. If that is something that bothers you a lot, just wait a little bit and it'll get sorted out.
Yeah. So was it a true MMR reset? Because I saw some people posting that they were saying that like from game 1, everyone they knew was getting plus 30, minus 10.
So it's not minus 10. It is plus 30, but it's also minus 30. Okay. Before the baseline was plus 20, minus 20, and now it's plus 30, minus 30 to try to help with those situations where you see the rank 1 guy's 3000 LP and you're 0, and it's like, it'll take me so long, even with good win rate, to get there. So they're just trying to make it so like you get to where you're supposed to be faster.
Yeah. But anyways, the meat of the stuff here, which is also going to be applicable to Pro, is going to be new season and all the changes that are going along with this patch. The role quest thing, I'm pretty happy with what they came out with. They're not like, they don't seem like super huge or anything. And to me, like, changing the top lane experience thing, their stated goal is to make it so that the overall like getting out of hand and the enemy top laner is just gonna have like 4 or 5 level leads on people and just gonna come like smashing heads later. They're trying to curb it a bit, plus push it in the direction of they gave this flat experience to takedowns so that if you're a tank or something, you came to all these team fights, you're not going to be punished as much as, I was playing against a Fiora and the Fiora's been split pushing the whole time and has this, crazy benefit of top lane quests just overvaluing for isolated play and splitting and getting all these minion waves. And, I sacrificed for my team. I'm playing a tank champion and I'm getting a lot of takedowns. Now you got this flat experience, plus it's taking down the overall. So to me, I think that's just a pure good change. The mid lane one, I guess, is debatable depending on how useful you thought like having to time or know and play around when your empowered recall is. And I think a lot of the majority of players is just like, I'm recalling when I need to recall, and if I've got the empowered recall, it happens when it happens and it's fast. And changing it to a more generic thing is definitely less interesting.
It's more boring, but higher win rate, basically.
One of the big debates, too, is always, okay, so how we want to get as like interesting and thought-provoking and gameplay changing as possible with lots of changes and items and stuff like that. That is more interesting, but then it is also harder to balance it. Like someone who's like tracking their recall and doing like roam timers and split push things with empowered recalls or whatever, and actually using it well versus just a flat generic like AD and AP increase, which this is for the 6%. That doesn't really it doesn't really change your gameplay much at all. Is kind of the debate, but this is definitely a lot easier to balance and more like generally applicable to more champions too.
Yeah. The recall thing I think was kind of interesting at like you say at really high levels, because I know talking to some pros, they would play around when they have the empowered recall. They'll do things like greed an extra wave on a split push because they know like, oh, okay, I can make up for this with the faster recall. So like I'll get out of there in time for them to come back, because they're thinking about like recall timers and when the person will be back and how much time it's going to take me to get out of here and all these kind of things. But obviously for most players, it's to me, this is active items personified in the role quest, where it's like a lot of active items have low win rate, and it's kind of like the Deathfire Grass discussion again, where it's like for the average player, they are not utilizing it properly. It's the same thing with bone plating, how bone plating is super popular in a lot of matchups in Pro because they play well around that with their trades, whereas second wind is almost higher win rate on like basically every champion in the game because it just works. You don't think about it, right? It's just giving you it to you by default. So if your bone plating gets poked off for free and you're just not thinking about that, that's not getting you any value, whereas second wind always gets you something. So I kind of see it like that. I like some of the changes that they've changed as just the general rules. Some of them are kind of complex with the quest progression and how it works for like how long you've stayed in lane versus like when you're recalling, being able to contest proxies and all this sort of stuff. But generally, I think they're all rule changes that just make sense. And something that I liked is the idea, like functionally for every 2 minutes you spend in lane, you can spend 1 minute roaming without penalizing your quest progress. So I kind of like this idea that if I am playing a roaming style champion, I'm not necessarily getting punished for that. If I'm never laning, then yeah, you should probably get some sort of drawback on the role quest. But the idea that it's like you lane for a couple of minutes, you push it out, and then you have an opportunity to like go top from base and try to kill someone there, or roam up river and try to kill someone, and then get back without necessarily getting way behind your role quest. I think those are kind of cool changes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming. I think a lot of those things are kind of, I'd say they're under the hood, maybe matters more at higher levels. Yeah. I think for the average League player, it's like, you're not going to notice that much. Mid lane, you're probably like, hey, where would my recall go? But I think for the most part, there was sort of the sentiment that mid quest felt the weakest compared to all the other ones, which was kind of by design. Like top and bot were supposed to get the really cool ones, and then jungle support were kind of meant to get the, not
Here's
as
some gold.
yeah, not as big ones, even though like the support control word buying 40 gold is like really nice. But I think mid, it was kind of left in the spot where it's like, yeah, you get our tier 3 boots, but like we already had tier 3 boots before half the time. And so it's it's not getting more interesting, like you said, but it will just be power up. You're getting more AD and AP, which that's something that's super hard to feel. I think like people won't be like, yeah, you know, my combo at this breakpoint will kill you now when it didn't before, because it's not something that's super feelable, but it will just, you know, make mid laner stronger, and it won't help tank mids as much, which is, you know, kind of like, I guess, a downside if you like tank mids. But I feel like most League players, when they load up into like a Sion mid or a Zac mid, they're not too excited about it. So I think it's okay if they don't get as much out of it, because get your ass in the top lane.
What do you think about the minion changes? Because you've obviously had a lot of chance to play with a lot of this stuff, right? So do you think that the minion wave changes are actually going to be impactful or kind of change much? Did you notice anything in your games?
I wasn't able to notice it too much. I think this is something that you have to ask genuine pro players about, because I know there are ways you can manipulate the wave, especially in like range versus melee matchups where you like attack a ranged minion to get them to refocus and, you know, do whatever you want the wave to do. It's pretty unintuitive though. I know that there are a lot of times where I'll just be sitting there in lane and I feel like the minions are just going completely freak mode on me and making no sense at all for what they're doing. And so this is going to help with that. So I think for the majority of players, maybe every player, it's just an improvement. We'll have to see what, you know, like the top Korean pro players think about it, because they're probably the ones who understand it and played around it the most. We'll see what they think, but I'd say overall, you know, it's just going to be, it'll make the minion behavior a lot more predictable.
Yeah, that's good, because I remember all these, you know, there would be a new video every week of like, oh, look how, you know, this player has been able to like figure out a way to get this crazy OP level 1 trade without getting minion aggro this way, or this is why you should always move up to this pixel and trade on whatever. I think those things being kind of more easy to understand for everybody is probably just going to be a good thing. Like I said, also with the other parts of the role progression, like maybe there's something that pro players mess around with the, you know, get banking a 60 seconds of roam timer, or now like your role quest points are just straight up disabled for 12 seconds after recalling. It doesn't wait for you to get back into where your lane is, which was kind of like what it basically was before, and then mid lane was shorter, so you could get back there quicker. I like a lot of these things. Plus now you can also go defend the proxy guy if you want to chase the singed or something, which a lot of times you probably still don't want to go running after that person who's proxying your lane, but now at least you won't lose your role quest points while you're doing it, going down your own lane, which I think all are pretty good, pretty feels good things. So all in all, I like a lot of the, you know, basically like season changes or whatever that they're doing here. What about champion specific for you guys? Because some of these are pro play, some are very, very solo queue. To me, the Briar one obviously is like the poster child for solo queue, because Briar has been crushing solo queue. Like the player rate has been increasing and increasing and increasing, and the win rate has been very generically good for quite a while. So I do like this as a you know, solo queue basically nerf to a lot of people are doing like collector builds. One of my friends has been maining Briar and is pretty sad about it, but I think that's well-deserved nerf there. And then the Ambessa one, when I saw this cast time going from 0.55 seconds to 0.7, and they had their little blurb about the reasoning of, oh, we played around with it. I'm assuming maybe Meteos and your team are the, you know, ones kind of playing around with it and trying to find the balance of, is this on my skill of hitting my Ambessa ult, or is it on your skill for being able to have some outplay potential and dodge Ambessa ult? To me, it looked like a pretty big increase in cast time, and I was like, ooh, I think we're going to see a lot of Ambessa ults dodge now. The like day one win rate change was seemed like it was pretty big, so it might be leaning more towards its significantly easier to dodge Ambessa ultimates. We'll have to see. I haven't personally tested it yet.
Yeah, this is one where I expect that. So with a lot of these changes, especially nerfs, I think that the win rate is going to go down. Like looking at day one data is like kind of fake in a sense, because I think that for the most part, people who've played Ambessa have probably played a lot of them, and they're very used to the timing of the ult, right? So when it's slower, they're just going to miss more because they have to learn how to aim it again. And it's going to feel horrible, and they're probably going to get tilted doing it. I guarantee a lot of Ambessas are going through that. But I expect it'll come back on once people get more used to aiming it, because it's still pretty fast. I think, it was probably just too fast before. It was, even a lot of the times, even if you were paying attention to your character, like if you didn't see Ambessa start the ulti, even if you had flash, like you would still get hit just because it's such a fast reaction. So I think it's a good change. This champion has really been kind of a menace, especially in higher rated games. So I like that. The funny one for day one win rates that I've been looking at is, so I did a lot of testing for the alternate builds like Crit Kennen, AP Ezreal, and their day one win rate is not looking so good. I did kind of predict that I think the win rates are going to be very deflated initially, because it's a lot of these people who, I don't think people are playing Crit Kennen or AP Ezreal mid because they're like, I really want to win the game. They're going to be like, hey, something new. Let me try it out. Let me mess around with this. And so I think people probably won't be building the right items at first. They're not going to know their limits. I don't really think these champions are going to be insane, but it's probably going to be higher than I think Ezreal's 38% win rate right now going mid lane, which is really low. But it'll be fun to watch and just see how it changes over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's definitely one. I like your point about people getting used to re-aiming Ambessa ult, or getting used to when should I do an alternate build, and how I should play differently perhaps when I have an alternate build. If the win rates had been positive on day one, with a bunch of people doing Crit Kennen and some random builds and stuff that they've never done before, I would be really worried. So I do. To me, it's a positive thing that a lot of these adjusted, champions and alternate win rate, builds and stuff are negative at the beginning, because you should invest, the time and stuff into getting good and using them in the right spots.
Yeah, for sure. I'm pretty interested to see a couple of changes that were sticking out to me. Zeri got a lot of changes. Zeri's been it's almost like the Smolder treatment, where Smolder was ultra scaling, and then they kind of decided, okay, we're going to make it stronger in the early game, but they took off a lot of late game power. So Smolder, obviously they did that a long time ago. Zeri, the changes are taking her away from being really high burst in the late game with the ultimate to being more around early game additional power, and the move speed of the ultimate is more being kind of emphasized, which the stack duration going from 1.5 to 2.5 feels like that could be pretty impactful. That is how long the move speed lasts before it'll fall off if you're not hitting someone. And then of course move speed per stack is going from 1% to 1.5. The trade-off is the burst AD ratio is going from 100% AD to 60. That is when you actually press your R, which is obviously quite a bit less damage. But then there's also some pretty significant buffs on the E, which seem relevant for wave clear. Both the base damage on the additional damage on the E, which is obviously when you're getting the AoE bolts, is going up. But also the cooldown reduction on it, as you're hitting people, applying champions and abilities, it only worked on champions when you're hitting with attacks and stuff, and now it works on minions as well. So now you can have a much lower cooldown, I would think, on average with that E, and potentially use it more for wave clear. It does more damage to minions. The passive auto does more damage and has higher range. There's a number of these things that feel hey, this could actually make her more relevant in the early game. And if she's not just getting run over in the early game, Zeri can still just be generically quite strong in the late game, even with lower burst. Especially, I always just feel Zeri is a nightmare to play against when you're playing these binary slow walk at you champions, where all of a sudden, if you don't kill Zeri right off the start of the fight, you were never catching back up to Zeri, right? So I feel it could be pretty powerful against some of the low engage comps that a lot of teams seem to be running these days in pro.
Yeah, and I mean, she's been kind of a package deal with Yuumi for most of the time she's existed, just because no other enchanter can really keep up with her, except Yuumi doesn't have to. She's just right there. I don't know how these changes are personally. I wasn't doing a lot of Zeri testing because I don't really play her, but we'll see. I think they definitely want her to be fast and less bursty, so we'll see. she was definitely really fast in the test. I can say that much.
Yeah, I got a little worried when I read that they're trying to return her to the zippy ways and being super fast, because I'd have a lot of memories of Zeri running circles around us. So,
dude, do you remember that there was a clip like right when Zeri came out of her
The Yon one?
It wasn't Yon, it was a solo queue clip where there was a guy, she was attacking someone under tier 1 turret, and it was like when the ult just kept stacking infinitely, and Zeri was queuing them from the front of the turret and then sprinting around the turret and queuing them from behind the turret before the ult ran out, and they were just actually running circles literally around. It was the most insane thing.
Yeah.
I don't think we're back to those levels, thankfully.
I was thinking of one, I think it was Yon. It was like a clip of him in solo queue, but if I have the right player, where he was like giga behind, but the other team was all these like slow walk at you champions or whatever, and he is just shooting them, keeping the stacks going for like 3 minutes or something ridiculous, just slowly pea-shootering them down for like 50 damage because he was giga behind, and he just eventually kills them, and he's just like laughing maniacally the whole time. So it kind of reminds me of that. Another change that I was kind of interested in was the Gragas changes. Obviously, the removal of Phase Rush is pretty big for champions that can't actually proc Storm Raider's Surge easily. So TLAW got some compensation buffs, so did Gragas. The damage reduction on the W sounds impactful, but I'm like, can you actually justify not just taking this as your last skill? Because everyone takes W as your last skill these days. So I don't know if this would be strong enough, because at max rank, it's 26% plus 4% per 100 AP, whereas currently it was 18. So I'm like 8% more damage reduction. Like maybe this makes some like tanky Gragas builds more viable. Like I don't know if it's enough to actually do that, because obviously if you're not going E and Q, your wave clear's worse. Your actual like ability to engage is worse. But 8% flat damage reduction sounds significant. So it just kind of made me think, hey, maybe you could play like tank Gragas or something, because it's been a long time since you've had tank Gragas. It's been like only AP for a long time, or at least like hybrid AP, like Roa and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure. I was playing some Gragas recently, reminiscing on the days of jungle Gragas. He's not very good jungle right now. I don't recommend it. But it's interesting because that 8% flat damage reduction, as far as I know, the ratio scales linear with it, and any kind of percent damage reduction like that, each point you get, like after the next, gets more and more impactful, right? So you're starting at 26%. So if you have AP with that ability max, you're actually getting like extremely tanky. In the case of having a lot of AP, you would still be 8% tankier, but if it was like, I don't know, doing quick maths is hard, but if you were at like 50% damage reduction before with a lot of AP, when you activate W, you'd be at 58, which is, a lot of DR at that point. So I don't know if something like that's going to happen. It seems not that realistic or likely, but maybe we'll see. I think mostly it's just meant to be kind of like a late game thing for Gragas, like make him a little bit more useful late game, but I don't think it's going to like make him OP overnight or something.
Yeah, just made me wonder, like, can you just do, like Hollow Radiance, Gragas, and like just play tank engage Gragas like how people used to, right?
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean the number, when I saw, like, I got kind of like sticker shock from seeing the number increase like, that much.
Can I take W?
Yes, but wait a second though. Okay,
skill is terrible, but
yeah, we'll see how it is in practice. But I'm definitely excited to get home and play some ranked again.
Yeah, there's also Deathfire Touch getting added in, Storm Raider's Surge. So Deathfire Touch, if you never played it before, it's basically like just like a dot rune, right? And that was kind of, there's the idea is that champions in this space don't really have a rune for them. They did some stuff like with Malzahar, I think, where there was like a cooldown reduction on Comet when it was a dot that was applying it, I believe is how it worked. So there was some stuff like that was kind of coded in to try to make it like a little bit better for dot classes. But now they've added DFT back in. They've also made it so Comet is scaling on damage based on range that it's applied on. So it can go up to double damage. I think it was at like 750 range or something like that. But the idea being like if you're, like Xerath or Vel'Koz or whatever, and you're tagging someone from far away, Comet can do a lot more damage. Obviously has a travel time and so on, but trying to kind of change those a little bit. And Storm Raider's Surge is essentially Phase Rush proc, but it was based off of doing a percentage of their health and damage.
It's 25%.
There you go.
And it's within 3 seconds. So it does still retain the you have to be bursty thing.
Yeah.
But 25%, like you're saying, some champions that would use phase rush and just like hit people with spells.
Yeah.
If you're not a damaged champion and you can't take 25% of their maximum health, obviously it's not going to be as good. Also, the notes are written a little weird, and it's like, oh, new, the speed is 40%, and then it's like semicolon 75% for ranged champions, which I'm assuming is 75% of 40%. It's not like a higher speed percent chance for ranged champions.
So that would be 30%.
Yeah, which is, whereas as it's written, it could be interpreted that way, but
that would be insane if it was 75%
would be insane.
move speed.
Yeah, especially because
be very weird to make it better for ranged than melee. That's never how it's been.
That is never the case.
Yeah, that one's definitely meant to be a nerf because, especially in pro play, like we just see so many champions just shrug off stuff that they really shouldn't be able to because of this rune.
Yeah.
It's like it makes you fast and it makes you more resistant to slows. So you have it on stuff like Orianna. It's like you try to gank her or Rise, he just EWQs you, and they can still do this with Storm Raider Surge, but they at least have to be more ahead or whatever. They don't just guaranteed get it. And I know from playing this rune, it's not easy to tell when you're going to get it, right? It's like, am I like one auto away from proccing it? Has the timer expired? So it's meant to be weaker than Phase Rush for sure. So it's, just going to be less generally usable. So champions that rely on slows don't just get completely shut down by this thing.
Did you play much with Halo Blades? Because new Halo Blades sounds somewhat interesting. It was obviously 3 auto attacks that you could get really, really fast. Now they're changing it to, it's like there's some bonus damage on the individual attacks. And then also it is increased by +1 attack if you cast an ability that resets your auto attack up to 2 attacks. So you can get that extra bonus attack. I guess you could already get 1 bonus attack if you used an ability that reset it, but now you can get 2 additional. So you can get 5 total attacks. And then your attacks empowered by Halo Blades deal 4 to 20 plus 8% bonus AD, 6% bonus AP true damage.
Yeah.
So that sounds potentially like pretty strong, for maybe a lot more champions. Did you get to kind of experiment with it all?
Yeah, we did do some testing with Halo Blades, and one of the ones that was kind of a question mark was on Riven, because they also included a few more abilities that are considered auto attack resets, and Riven's Q is one of them. So we were doing some tests of like, hey, is this just too good? Can Riven just one-shot you level 1? Because, she kind of already does, but even faster.
Let me tell you.
She's like, is Riven getting like 6 really fast autos doing true damage at level 1 too much? And so I think there is like the cap for the amount of extra resets you can get. It's not every single one. And I'm not sure. It didn't seem like it was going to be just definitively better than Conqueror, because you are competing against Conqueror, which is like, kind of the go-to for most of these melee champions. So I'm not sure. You'd have to ask Kai about that. He did a lot more of the Keystone changes. I think Deathfire Touch is kind of the one that has stood out to me. Like that thing, if you're playing it, because they've changed how it works from before. Where before, I think a lot of people remember it being like the Jyn rune, because it had a really high bonus AD scaling, and Jyn just gets a lot of bonus AD. And I think it maybe would work on him, but I don't think it'd be that good. But it's really good on like Victor in lane, because the way it works now is when you hit them with a spell, it puts the dot on them, and depending if it's an AoE spell or a single target spell, that's the duration. Yeah. So single target spells is 4, right? And then AoE I think is like 1 or something.
2.
2? Okay, yeah. So it's pretty short for AoE, and once it's been on them for 3 seconds, the damage from the rune doubles. And so someone like Victor, he can Q you, and then that'll give you a 4-second burn, and then he can auto you with the empowered part of the Q and refresh it near the end. And so then it just does extra damage, and then when that's about to run out, you can E him. And so champions that can just keep this dot on you and keep refreshing it, it'll keep having that amp damage. But if it falls off for even just like half a second, it resets again to the unamped damage, and you have to wait another 3 seconds. So I think champions that can consistently hit you, this could be really strong on.
There is also something I read, I don't know if you guys mess with this, but I guess it is maybe like countering as multiple instances of damage, because I saw a tweet about someone saying that like Smolder with Deathfire Touch, your Q can apply 5 stacks of Black Cleaver, and like some weird interactions like that, where I guess it counts as like an additional instance of applying it. Like I don't know how relevant that kind of stuff is, but did you guys mess around with it like on AD champs or poke champs like Ezreal or anything like that?
Yeah, we did do Smolder, but we didn't do Cleaver Smolder. But like, that does make sense, because Cleaver like was changed a while back to be better for champs like Senna and Udyr, where it does just get like multi-hits count as multiple Cleaver stacks. So I mean, that seems like pretty good synergy.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. There's also obviously all the item stuff. We talked a little bit on previous episode about Static Shiv and Voltaic and kind of some of these new things. So maybe, unless you guys want to go into that, we probably don't have to. Cool.
I haven't seen too much on it yet, but yeah, we did talk about it, and I'm curious to see how it develops, how it pans out.
Cool. Well, let's talk about some LCS because we are deep into this episode already. The first match that we can talk about from last week was Dignitas versus Fly, where Dig did unfortunately end up losing this one 2-0.
Yeah, they certainly did, and FlyQuest looked pretty dang good while doing it. I'm definitely a big fan of the progression of this team and Griffin especially, and I'm hoping that we do in LCS games and on stage get to see his Nasus jungle bring it out as well. But honestly, I feel like they're about where we put them, these kind of middle of the pack team, but definitely above like the Dignitas and Disguised rosters and stuff like that. And so I think they're right on track as far as one of these young teams. It's a lot of potential and showcasing a lot of power. So if they can hone in on a couple things, like some of the team fighting and some of the mid and late game assignments, then I definitely have high hopes for them, especially by time for Worlds. I remember at the beginning of the year when we talked to Griffin, he was like, "Yeah, we're all young, this team is gonna start slow, but by the time World comes around, we're gonna have one of the world spots." So he's calling the shot of being a top 3 team. I don't think they're there yet. But they are.
But they're 4th.
They're in a spot. Exactly. They're in a spot where you could see them getting there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they are definitely close. I feel like Gakkos had a really good series, which was kind of fun to see. His Investa game was pretty crazy. The Shen jungle game was cool because he played Shen, but I didn't really feel like the game was about him kind of like at all. It was kind of just there. I will say that second game felt like it should have been so easily won by Dignitas that this one was crazy for me from Palafox.
Oh my
I feel
God.
like this one
The Azir engages.
Yeah, I was getting frustrated watching it, and it was
So hard to watch.
like I just felt like FlyQuest was playing this comp that is hyper reliant on poke, right? And they're really, really, have tons of front line with the Shen and the Scion, and they have to poke you down. And it just felt like Palafox was hyper fixating on going for these big shuffles where he always is trying to fly into the back line, catch the carries, knock him in, and try to get this one shot that way. But he's the only one who can hurt the front line from the other team. Like, he's the only one that can actually hurt the Scion and the Shen. And we even got a comms listen in of, after multiple times of him diving in the back line, FBI being kind of left alone, there's a comms listen of FBI saying, "Christian, you're the only one who can kill the Scion." And he's like, "Yep, okay, I'll try." So they called it out, and it's like, okay, great, they're going to change that. And then next fight, immediately goes backline again. And then they get Ocean Soul. And I'm like, well, now they have Ocean Soul. You're playing against Pocomp. Literally all you have to do is hit frontline and you just win, right? Because surely FlyQuest can't just one-shot you. They should just slowly lose the fight. And then they go backline again. And it was like, oh my God, we're just so fixated on this one way to play the game that it was a tough one to watch because I felt like that second game seemed so winnable for them. You have Ocean Soul, you have a clear way to play it. We even got the comms listen of you guys talking about how you want to play it, and then they're still just making the same call every single time. And I don't know if that was just Palafox didn't agree with that and felt like, no, we won't win front to back. We have to play it a different way, or what it was. But it was just not working out. And there was obviously some good plays on the other side too. Like one of them, Palafox was looking for an engage onto Quad and maybe Quad and Masu coming out of the river brush, and Quad just insta-feared him as he was going forward for the shuffle, and then that completely cooked them. But that one felt like it should have been a Dignitas win, which was really tough.
That was a dirty performance from Palafox. I don't usually just say, one player lost in the game, but I think that's applicable here. It wasn't just one fight. It was every single fight. The one you're talking about where he got feared by Wei, like Gakko's Scion was just stuck there in the middle of the entire team. You could just stab him and win the fight. There was absolutely no reason to go in there, but it just seemed like in his mind, we see it a decent amount of Azir's. They get like the montage vision. They're like, hey man, I've never seen a front page Reddit post of an Azir front to backing. Like I'm going in kind of deal. And so he just kept doing it every single fight. And the game was won at so many different points, but he was just insistent on diving and throwing every single fight. It was extremely hard to watch. Like that was one of the worst Azir performances, just not understanding what you're supposed to do in the game. And the execution of it was just, it was such a mess.
Yeah, it's funny because there was another instance even before where they had caught Sion actually, and Xion was the kill target running like into their blue jungle, and he was like CC'd and then like rooted up and stuff, and Palfox went into to Azir sweep, not even the enemy carries, but just the Sion back who was already like pretty caught. And could just auto attack. So that one was definitely a painful because it was such a roller coaster that Dig could have won multiple times. We're in such a really good position, and then FlyQuest would win one of these team fights and come back. I remember even before they got the Ocean Soul, it had already swung back to FlyQuest, and like FlyQuest was in really big position, and then Dignitas were able to make this big play, and then to be able to get Ocean Soul, I'm like, oh my god, now Dig are back, and then that immediately gets taken away. It was like so much whiplash throughout this throughout the mid game of that actual game, because Dignitas actually started off the game very effectively with multiple lanes having really good starts. So it's another scenario where you can see Dig. I feel like so many times, and they've even won some of the games. We talked about it a lot, where the game that they took over like TL
and Lyon,
and won over Lyon, like these really good opponents, and you can see it.
Yep.
They like give you a ray of hope, and then they immediately like take it away. This series, of course, they did not complete it and win an actual game in the series, but they did. Get themselves almost there to be able to do it. So
I mean, they definitely should have, and it's just, these are the kind of games that if you want to make playoffs, you, to be honest, can't really afford to be losing as Dig, right? They're 0-4 in series now. They have the 2 game wins. They did win 1 game against Lyon, 1 game against TL, and you're kind of hoping, okay, maybe you can build on that. Like those are clearly 2 of the top 3 teams. Now you're going up against FlyQuest, who's a little bit below them in the pecking order. They got themselves in a position where it feels like it's a pretty guaranteed 1 game. You should be going to game 3. You should be in with a chance to maybe win a series. But to lose games like that, I think is pretty heartbreaking. Especially, I mean, League sometimes is, you get 1 real fight and then the game is done. And this game was not that. Like you actually were gifted the chance to try to like adjust your strategy throughout the fights. And you don't always have that in League, right? Sometimes it's like you have the 1 fight, you go in, you think, okay, I probably need to dive. And you go for the dive and it doesn't work out, and you could have just fought front to back. And you're like, all right, next fight, I'm just going to fight front to back. But you never get that even chance again, right? It's just over. And in this one, they really had that chance to kind of retry it a few times, and they could never kind of get it together. So definitely a super disappointing week for Dig. Obviously a good week for Fly. Move them into 4th place, and a pretty comfortable win for them overall. And cool to see them kind of play some different meta stuff. One of the things we were talking about was how Gakkos had not lost on a carry and had not won on a tank. He did get his first win in a tank, but he got his first win in a tank in a game that I thought they had lost. You know what I mean? So it still didn't really change my opinion of like how they play with tanks and how they draft with some of these comps, where it still felt like it should not have worked. It did, but it kind of felt like it shouldn't. And I will say, like, his Mbessa game was, he was cooking.
Oh yeah, his Mbessa game was incredible. I just want to see more carry games from Gakkos. It really feels like that is FlyQuest's best chance of winning, and it feels like when you look at the players, that's kind of what they're set up to do.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, even with the Shen jungle, I feel like Shen jungle with carry tops is just such a great combo.
Yep.
But yeah, to your point, I think FlyQuest, I didn't like the draft at all game 2. I think it didn't make any sense. They went Shen, Sion, Bard, which is 3 champions that all like kind of do the same thing. They're just low damage, tanky utility type champions. And then your carries are Poke, Varus, Wei, who don't really kill front lines. And so if the enemy Azir is not just flying into you and suiciding every single fight, I don't think you really can win fights. So I think that even though they did win the game, they probably wouldn't against a better team. And I think that draft was not that great.
Yep. Next series was Shopify versus C9, which C9 2-0'd. We had a lot of, we had, 3 kind of in a row of pretty one-sided series. C9, again, looked pretty dominant. This one did not feel very close.
I predicted the upset. I was saying, every time it seems like all the games are going to be stomps, they're not. And that was wrong. They were all stomps. Yeah, I don't know. They didn't have that great of a chance of winning Shopify, but, I was just thinking maybe some magic would occur, and it didn't.
No, we keep waiting for the magic, because a lot of these players we always talk about, they're the wild card, Yeah, they're losing now, but they've had some upsets, and they have had in the past upsets versus Cloud9 specifically, as Energy and stuff like that, and it just really did not happen. Though I feel like both top lane and also bottom lane, like Seos was having a tough time. Fudge really, really had a rough time. He got solo killed by Cassante before Cassante even had ult.
Yeah,
he just pre-6 just walks down the Rumble versus Cassante matchup. I feel like that is egregious. And
Blabber was kind of owning too.
Yeah,
that's the game.
That was one of the biggest, just absolute jungle domination games. It's just doing that late invade on the Raptors. Blabber genuinely told me about this. I don't know if it was last year or beginning of this year, but basically just said with Ambassador, she's really good at that. This was before her Q nerf, but I guess, if the other jungler is weak enough, you can just do it anyway. You just auto it a little bit more, and then you double Q it. And I do think Contracts didn't react properly to it, but I kind of feel for him. It's like when you're in those situations, you pretty much have no options for what you can do, and the other jungler can do anything he wants. And then if the other team is also not opening themselves up to plays, which in this game, it's like the bot lane is an Ashe, just map hacking you repeatedly with Hawkshot, and then top is a Cassante who's somehow winning his lane. It was a pretty cursed game to be Contracts, I think.
Yeah. I mean, those situations are really hard, right? Where it's maybe your best option is just to instantly give up the Raptors and then go somewhere else and whatever. But a lot of people end up contesting, and then you lose anyway, and then you're kind of even more behind. So it is tough, right? And I do think it's nice to see a lot of junglers, getting better and better at these kind of level 1 invades and these level 1 plays, realizing that teammates can't just sit around and defend the entrances anymore because minions spawn so fast, right? So I feel like it's kind of more abusable in a lot of ways than it used to be in some matchups.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've had a lot of good jungle focus. Top lane to me is the thing that's getting stratified. I feel like the bad top laners are looking real bad, and the good top laners are clearly delineating themselves from the competition. So I wonder if that becomes less or more important with the new season slightly changing. Team fighters are going to be punished less, and a little bit less for the split pushing. But I feel like having a good top lane is quite important.
It's
for
really
teams
important
right now.
And I mean, it's also one of the things when you talk about, even beyond these teams, when you talk about just the top 3 in general, it's like you talk about Lyon, about Cloud9, about TL, and I think Dokla's kind of sticking out for the bad reasons amongst those 3 top laners, right? Thanatos and Morgan, I think, are looking a lot more lane dominant and kind of making less mistakes and stuff. And so that's the thing where it can become an issue in some of these playoff matches where it's maybe they're going to make plans around some of it. But I agree. I mean, we know players can always step up and change how they're performing, but it does feel like the bottom couple top laners right now are there's a huge gap between the top laners that are performing the best. And we're seeing that where it's whether it's a lot of solo kills or just some people getting completely blown out, people losing their towers in isolated matchups, people picking the winning matchup and then losing plates and stuff and getting pushed in. We saw a lot of that this weekend. It does definitely feel like there's a big discrepancy right now. Even amongst top laners where you expected them to be really good coming this year, Fudge last year to me was a top 3 top laner. I don't think he actually won All Pro, but to me I think it was Thanatos and Bwipo and then Fudge. And this year he has not seemed to be able to find that form. And kind of same with Dokla. I feel like he's struggling to split a lot more than he did last year.
Yeah, Dokla at least he had a good Rumble game in the other series. The next series we could talk about the Lyon versus Disguised series, and Dokla did his Rumble game was good. He got a solo kill himself, being able to jump on that Aurora.
That was a 6 solo kill. The one on Castle. That was it would. I don't think most people will kill there because I mean, obviously Castle is a very good laning player, but just the timing of which he did it, it just left Castle with no options. Just like right when he hit 6, just.
Castle also was 1 minion away from getting 6, and I think he was trying to stay around a little bit more because he thought that the minions were going to kill off, the last minion, but he didn't get it, and he just ends up getting cooked. I mean, I agree, it was a really nice solo kill from Dokla. The previous game was very much the opposite, where he got the most slammed 1v1 by Jace. I actually feel like Sion and Jace is a pretty good matchup, where it's like, okay, you're getting bullied a bit, but you kind of withstand it, and then you stabilize. He like lost his full tower without jungle intervention pretty fast, and was down like 40 CS or something? Like, he got blown out.
It was real bad. I think it was 150 to 100, like with turret dead. Jace was up almost 2K and just completely isolated lane, no interference whatsoever. So I don't know. That kind of thing is pretty rare to see, especially with a champion like Sion, he's pretty hard to punish. You know, if he gets ganked a lot early and somehow ends up really behind, it could happen, but that's Korean Jace. I don't know what to tell you. Like, what can you do?
I feel, it's like one part, some of it's like, yeah, you can give some responsibility to Castle for like, in the Jace game, for example, he was camping in Sidebrush. I mean, they had no frontliners to kind of hold positions, so maybe give him a little bit of forgiveness, but there was a play where they were setting up, I think it was just around Dragon, either they had pulled Dragon or they were about to, and he was in that side lane line brush, right? And they were the blue side team, so he was like on the opposite side of the map, and he was in that brush, and I don't know if they got eyes on him or if they just guessed that he was there or he had shock blasted out. I can't remember the exact situation, but he just got picked in that brush, died basically instantly for free. And then that felt like, okay, now his lead was starting to go away. Dokla got some kills in fights and got some gold, and then all of a sudden the lead didn't really matter at all. And it was kind of reminiscent of the game where he played against Impact, where he was playing Aurora, where he got like 1 million solo kills and then went to fights and just couldn't really find anything to happen. And it's tough because it's like, you can't really blame Castle because he's clearly looking like the best individual on his team. But also maybe he's putting himself in positions where he shouldn't be, or maybe he's trying to like do too much because his team's behind. And, everyone feels that position sometimes where it's like, if you're playing solo queue or you're playing whatever and your team is getting blasted, but you're having a good game, and you kind of sometimes then feel like, okay, I got to do something. And then you just like colossally int and throw away your lead too, because you like try to pull off a 1v1 dive that you wouldn't normally do, or you try to 1v2 in a spot where you're like, all right, I got to do something good here. And then you just give your lead away too.
Yep. I give Castle a pass on a lot of it just because of the team situation, like you said. Obviously, you don't want to be making those mistakes, but I get the pressure. If you feel like you're going to lose if you don't go for the overplay, you just go for the overplay, and as the name suggests, it does not work out most of the time. Because it's hilarious to look at the score lines for the top laners after this first game. It's like Castle 0-3-2 Jace, Dokla 2-0-11 Sion. It's like, wow, that was a nice Sion game. But if you look at the actual lane, it's like, man, if the rest of their team was playing on that level, this game would have been over so fast.
Yeah,
and they were getting ahead too. Like the rest of DSG's Akali was pretty fed. If Inspired hadn't been, basically finding him and like marking him in multiple of these fights, I feel like Inspired did a bunch of work this game. To make sure that Lyon were still able to 2-0, still able to win. Because this one, I actually thought this was the better. It definitely looked better for DSG than the other one. I think the second game was pretty quick and pretty stompy.
Yeah,
if I recall. And so this one actually felt like, ooh, they're dangerous. Like Castle's gigafed. This tower's gone already. He like took the whole top side.
Yeah.
It's just that then he went to the dragon fight. Like he died quick and early, and I still felt like, oh well, like this Akali's got some threat, and they have Nocturne. Akali Nocturne dive like. They could like really pressure, but I don't know. Inspired was just like finding them and like he's like, I don't care about these solo laners. I'll go kill them myself. Like my solo laners can't do it. I'll go do it, and he would just like seek them out for the team fights. He found the Akali wrapping around on one of them. They kill him off, and then all of a sudden. Douglas like, yep, see, I'm Sion, I'm tank, and we're playing, and we're winning the team fights, and it's a GG.
I feel like Inspired does this way better than any jungler in the league, and I don't even think it's
Mark
close.
the enemy biggest threat or whatever.
Like he is so good at playing. Like he puts himself in a position where he has so much farm that he actually can 1v1 the enemy solo laners, and B, he's so good at actually marking them, finding them, and knowing when he's in a position where he can actually just 1v1 these carries. Like I was trying to think about when the last time I saw a game in the LCS that was like this dominant from a jungler where they're like taking on the 1v1 with the soul laner who's super fed and just beating them. And the last time I could think about it was Inspired also against Dignitas when Photon had his super fed Kennen and he was playing Pantheon and just found him on like every engage. Photon's trying to flank and Inspired just finds him and forces him to use the alt 1v1 or kills him or pushes him back or whatever. And this was the same thing. Like his positioning every time, he understood exactly where the Akali could be or where the Jace could be. He knew that the only way they're going to lose the fight is if they get through him onto Berserker or Isles. And he knew that it shouldn't be the Sion marking because the Sion wasn't that strong at that point, and maybe they could just ignore him or get past him. And it's like he's getting in there, he's finding Call Me, finding Castle, winning the 1v1, or forcing them back, or chunking them out. And it's just like he changes games in a way that I don't think a lot of other junglers do in those situations. It's just he shows such a good understanding of his own strengths on the champion, but also exactly how the opponents are going to play the game and when he can win those 1v1s.
Yep.
Shout out to Isles for me for this one also.
He was smurfing.
I thought Isles, ever since lock-in playoffs, he's been playing really well on multiple style champions. The like watershed moment was, I feel like, the Poppy game last split in playoffs, but he's been extremely good on these enchanters. Berserker's given his Berserker style complimentary interview. He's like, yeah, I can trust Isles now. Don't worry about before. But it really does show. I feel like the couple times that Berserker died, he was like flashing and dashing away from Isles and stuff like this. Isles played this game really well. He was definitely doing his Lulu duties very well, and he was a big part of shutting down the enemy solo lane carries as well. We're talking about Inspired, but I think it was the first Dragon fight when the Fed Jace was really a question of, is it going to have a big problem? Did have a really good, polymorph and wild growth. So I think Isles, as the player on this roster that was least hyped when it was formed and announced, has been performing real well.
Yeah, Lulu's always funny to talk about, like Lulu mechanics, but like his wild growths are super well timed all the time. Like, he's interrupting people's dashes with the wild growth as they're going in. He's perfectly layering it with people's CC as their stuns expiring. Like he's really good on that champion. And
he's also his positioning, and he's like using his body. He didn't die a single time this game, by the way. Berserker did. Obviously, they're oftentimes all focusing, throwing everything at the Yunara to try and kill him. But I remember the 2v2 kill down bottom lane that was just isolated 2v2. Isles was, up front, and he takes this big chunk, and he's like running away from the Nami ultimate just as long as he possibly can, and flashes to the side. He doesn't waste like his shields or wild growth or anything on himself. He's confident in his flash to be able to save all of his spells for Berserker to make the turn on the all in and kind of like Isles uses his own body as bait. And I don't know, he's played the line quite well. So definitely props there as well.
Yep. Last series was TL versus Sentinels. Game 1 was a Giga Stomp. Game 2 started like it was going to be a Giga Stomp. And then Sentinels came back and we actually got a pretty exciting series.
That game 2 was a movie. That was so funny. I like the all chat between Yon and Impact, where Impact's playing Varus top, which is just the least Impact-like champion ever. But then they just camped him so unbelievably hard.
Did you see Golden Glue's interview when he watched him die? Like,
yeah, he's like, he's fine. He just has to build both sums here. Oh, he flashed late. Oh, okay.
Oh, he didn't flash.
And then literally the interview ends with him just, oh my god. Oh my gosh. and then Raz tosses it back. It was like, picks the least Impact champion, immediately dies in the most horrible way, and you're like, oh.
Yep, it was a tough one, but I mean, I will say, Impact he's not the kind of guy you will not tilt him. He could be feeding so hard, but he's not going to get tilted at least. And he was extremely behind on this top Varus. And the way he played was just so goofy. He TP'd into a fight where his team was winning, and then he just doesn't even take a kill that he could have gotten. He's just like, yeah, guys, I'm useless. You go ahead and take this one. But that's kind of the style he's always been kind of known for, right? He's like the team player. And I mean, his Varus wasn't great. He did like get the cross kill on Morgan during one of those.
The 1v2 kill.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think he did terrible by any means, but like,
could have done better.
They camped him so hard. I think the first death was definitely misplay. He shouldn't have died there. And then a lot of times early so that can snowball pretty hard. But yeah, I don't know. TL was totally wilding this game, which I kind of like to some degree, where we've talked about them being like the scrim gods so much, but it feels like they're starting to show that on stage, right? It's like there was the play where I don't even remember how it started, but Jan just ended up being like behind their turret without even having that much of an advantage and just getting killed by Trundle.
Yes, really,
It was just one of those places. It's just like, dude, what? Like, how are you even there? And so even though the game wasn't going well, I felt like they were just being extremely aggressive. They picked a LeBlanc counter into Aurora, which I don't think LeBlanc's great at winning games. Honestly, she's just a demonic lane champion. She's very strong in lane, but her ability to like contribute in team fights is just super, super bad. So it was a fun game. It was nice to see Impact get a win on the top Varus. But yeah, this game was just a total
100% career win rate on the champ.
Perfect. Yeah, it was a mess. But like Rahel's Caitlyn, my lord, that champion does some damage.
Yeah,
that was insane.
It did, because I feel like Team Liquid trolled another lead that they had gotten. They were ahead. What was it, 3,400 or something by like the 18 minutes, like the early game. That it was like, oh, this might be a 2-0. TL are popping, like Jose's making plays. I feel like Jose has been absolutely smurfing, and he was being very aggressive with the Xin, and making a bunch of plays. But then it was like, oh, TL death here, TL death there. I think this is a classic for them at this point, where it's like, once like someone dies and their team tempo of like who's resetting when and who should be on the map playing aggressively or getting vision when, they like all get so desynced when one person dies or one thing goes wrong, that like there's going to be a couple more other extra like free-ish kills, or people get God, or before they like reorganize themselves and like fully get, whatever their system is back in place. And Sentinels are a team that have shown great tenacity and, coming back from positions where they are down and shrugging off, some early deficits if you do mess up, and if you're not going to be able to end out cleanly and punish you well. And I thought they did that really well this game. You're talking about Rahel's Caitlyn. Yeah, this was a true new season 7 item 80 carry, headshotting people for 60% of their HP, like very, very big damage and very big range. And this was a really fun game. The middle game, I guess, that Sentinels did win to push it to game 3, but TL locked right back in the next one. And Jan had his Lucian game, which was quite impressive again too. So I think that bodes well for TL. That Jan to me feels like back. I was a little worried for a few games there. TL didn't seem, it was like, wait a second, like they fully rebuilt this whole roster around Jan and Core JJ, and they weren't performing at the very beginning there, but does seem like they are warmed up back in.
I wanted to give a shout out to Huhi too, because I feel like Huhi is playing insanely well in most of these games. To me, he's been one of the best supports in the league. I feel like even in that game too, his Bard was a big reason why they were getting like every single kill. Like he was 17 out of 19 KP that game, and was, to my recollection, like a big part of the top lane play that started to bring them back, where they got up and they killed off Morgan and as well killed off Jose after it.
He went to Rome with Hambach because Jose was getting really far ahead with all the kills. And Hambach Trundle was like, come with me, buddy. And then he's like magical journeying him around and stunning up the Xin and stuff for him. So yeah, 100%.
I just feel like Hui's having a really great season. And obviously Mike might go a bit under the radar because, they're like the 5th place team or whatever. But I think he's playing really, really well. And it was interesting hearing people talk about them on pros because Core JJ was on there and Alz was on there. And Core was like, yeah, I think every player on our team is individually better than them. But they were talking about how Sentinels has a clear way that they want to play the game and being pretty complimentary just about the fact that they understand their win conditions, they play towards them, they don't give up, they're able to find ways to actually play the game even from difficult spots and stuff. And it was funny when Raz was like, yeah, Sentinels has been doing really, really poorly, and I was like, huh? He didn't even realize that they were low in the standings because he was saying he thought they're one of the best teams in the league. So this is a team that definitely could push up. And yeah, I think Hui's a big part of that.
Yeah, I like a lot of the listen-ins we've gotten from Hui, where the biggest one was the Anivia game, where I thought he was trolling when he was just saying it sounded like such cope to me. He was saying, oh, it's just don't worry about it. The game's sake, guys. We're just one fight from winning.
They were down 7,000 or 8,000 gold at that time.
They were so behind, and I'm like, okay, that is just the most calm I've ever heard. And then they ended up winning one fight and winning the game. I was like, damn, I guess he was right. It wasn't cope.
He had the vision.
Yeah, he knew. My bad. And also from TL, I like seeing TL play really aggressive like this. I think that they're super fun to watch, and that my impression of them so far has been I think they're the best team at playing with a lead because they just are so aggressive and they push it so hard. I don't know how good they are without a lead, though. I think their mid game, especially when they're not ahead, feels pretty sketchy to me. It feels like they've been in winning situations so often that they know how to do that. But sometimes when they're not ahead enough to just sort of force their will upon their opponents, they're more inclined to make mistakes or just take fights they don't win or get caught randomly because the opponents have more options. And so it's nice to see them sort of pressing their limits. And I'm just interested to see how they adapt because I think, once they play against the other top teams or, say they do go to Worlds and play against stronger opponents, you do need to be able to play from ahead and behind. You can't just always win laning all the time against everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I did like when they've talked about wanting to play more, like you're saying, aggressive and action packed, and more kind of LPL ideology, basically, of creating your own wins. But sometimes, if you're super far behind, you don't have the option to create your own wins. So yeah, you also have to be accustomed to maybe a Sentinel style where you're controlling until an opportunity presents itself.
Yep. So we have 4 games this weekend. Saturday's looking, I'm going to be honest, like some pretty one-sided series. We got C9 Dig and then TL DSG. I think pretty much everyone is going to predict the same way on these ones. Sunday, I think we have some closer ones. Lyon versus Sentinels. Yes, Lyon, I think, obviously, is way above them in the standings, but just based on how people are talking about Sentinels, and obviously, and some of the online competitions that's going on, they're doing a lot better. So
I think the Fly SR that day also could be close because I feel like those are both they're around middle of the pack right now. The feeling I would assume for everybody is probably generally FlyQuest above in middle of the pack of Shopify, and Shopify on the lower part of that and maybe dropping down. But like Meteos has been saying, we're still waiting for that Shopify magic. Maybe it drops this week. Their schedule's been pretty tough.
Exactly. Their strength of schedule, that's what I was going to say. They've lost 6 games in a row. Not matches, but games. But they played Lyon, C9, TL. So that is as hard as it gets. So we know they're clearly not as good as the top 3. Yeah. They beat Dignitas before that, so we know they're not at the bottom. So the question is where are you in the middle of the pack? And you need to pick up another series win or two if you want to make playoffs, right? Because top 6 makes playoffs. So they're going to have FlyQuest, DSG, and then Sentinels left, I believe, is they're going to be their last 3 opponents. So they have an opportunity to move up the standings quite a bit if Shopify can actually get it rolling. This is going to be their chance. But I mean, it's a 7-week regular season, right? So we are more than halfway through it now. These games are starting to become pretty important. TL can lock upper bracket with their win over DSG, which I'm assuming they'll be able to do. And then, Lyon versus Sentinels becomes pretty important. If Sentinels wants to actually have an opportunity to get into the upper bracket, they're going to need to start picking up some wins. You need to be able to guarantee that kind of top 4 spot. So Sentinels Fly, they're kind of on the cusp, right now, and every series becomes really, really important.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's do predictions for all of them. How about that? Day number 1 is easy, as you said, because it's literally top 2 teams versus bottom 2 teams.
Yeah.
So everybody, Cloud9 over Dig and Team Liquid over DSG. But into Sunday, is anyone going to take Sentinels over Lyon? Any takers?
I'll go 2-1. I think Sentinels could get a game for sure. I think it's hard to predict Sentinels to win, but I do think that it could be more competitive than people are giving them credit for.
Yeah, it is really hard, especially with the 2 styles of the teams for me, because if your team, a lot of the success and what people are complimenting you on is you know how to play the game your way to your win conditions and you're controlled and maybe you get behind, but you never give up and blah, 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 blah. Well, you're playing against a team that has inspired on it and leads those types of controlled games.
And has a good early game.
And he usually gets his way if it's going to come down to that. Even if they don't have a good early game, as we saw before, like his solo laners got blasted.
Yeah.
And they were still able to win through the team fights in the mid game, even being super, like, I don't know, Dokla, how much gold he was behind, but it was significant. And that team was still able to find that win there. So I just think the matchup is probably real hard for Sentinels as far as the style, even though Sentinels deserve a lot of credit, I think, for how good they have been.
I'm also just interested in the top lane matchup, like A, because I think these are 2 top laners who have been very good but are struggling a bit right now. But B, I'm also curious, like, is Impact just going to keep playing the style that he's playing, or is he ever going to go back to tanks? Because he is playing all kinds of different stuff, and he has 0 games of Orin, Sion, or Cassante, which just seems wild to me because I would think those are some of his best champions. Other people are playing them, so they obviously can be played in the meta. And a lot of pros, we'll talk about Rahel and how good of a carry he is and how you can kind of play around him. And so it feels like that is an obvious thing that they could try. So I'm kind of curious to see if they ever will go back to that, or if they have decided, well, Impact has decided, or the coach has decided, no, tanks suck, we shouldn't play them, or if they're saving for playoffs or what. But I just think that's kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, and to be fair, because you're referring to like the main tanks in the meta, he did play his Shen and his Galio, type things. But yeah, the Cassantes and stuff like that for sure is what you expect. But if he's playing versus Dokla, then Lyon definitely are not afraid of giving Dokla a counter pick. And if you have like 2 top laners trying to play like some range tops and carries up there,
and you can give him the camp treatment. You can do what they did to him.
I think a lot of people would take the Dokla side of that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to go against the grain on this one. I definitely favor Lyon. Their laners just seem stronger in general. Like top's close, but I think Saint and Berserker, have done a lot better than Sentinels carries. So it's possible. I don't think it's impossible for Sentinels to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if they took 1 game. I would be surprised if they took 2.
Yeah.
I think it's just going to either have to be like some crazy draft gap or just some play just goes horribly for Lyon and they just fall behind and can't recover kind of deal. But I think if it's a standard game, Lyon's pretty solid.
What do we think about the Shopify series?
I wanted to ask, is everyone taking Shopify? Because I still don't want to take Shopify.
No, I tried that last week. It's someone else's turn. It's somebody else's turn.
I saw what happened to Meteos, so like, I didn't see anything in those games that made me want to do it more. Definitely not. Especially after the Gakkos Ambessa game and the Fudge just kind of getting run down in his games, I was like, ooh, I think FlyQuest, like I would not really be surprised, even though I was talking about, ooh, it's kind of cool. They're 2 middle-ish pack of teams. I would not be surprised if Fly 2-0s like smashes them, runs this series, but I would be extremely surprised if SR did that. I think if SR wins this series,
I wouldn't be shocked if they won, but I would be shocked if they stomped them.
Exactly. If they win this series, I think it's
competitive.
Either 3 games or it requires some like comeback or Contracts has to steal some Barons or something. By the way, we've like had this prepped graphic for years where Contracts has stolen the most Barons in the history of the LCS, but we never get to use it because he hasn't stolen another one since we made the graphic.
Come on, Contracts.
But he has the history of stealing major objectives. And he's had some really big games. I feel like even this split, but they lose. As Pantheon one comes to mind. So, maybe it's in the cards.
Poppy game too.
Yeah, maybe it's in the cards for Shopify, but I wouldn't predict on it.
I will say, I feel like if Contracts has the kind of game that he had in that Pantheon game or the Poppy game, like if he has those games that result in losses, I feel like those could be wins against Fly for sure, right? Against TL and C9 and Lyon that did not result in wins, but those, I think, those teams clearly look better than everyone else in the LCS and on stage. So I do feel like if Contracts has that kind of performance, and he had, really good series in his first series that they won, and then he's had some really good games in some of the series that they lost. So I do think that there is a possibility here of Contracts being able to take over. And yeah, I'm not.
Problem is he's a jungler, and I favor all the lanes of FlyQuest, literally all 3 lane matchups.
That is a problem. I agree with you.
Yeah, I think mid lane to me is the maybe closest one. Obviously, Zinni hasn't had like the best debut or whatever, but I think there's a lot of potential there. I think potential is kind of like the key word for me with this team, because I think Shopify on their best day beats FlyQuest. If they're not having a great day, maybe they don't need to be on their worst day, but I think all the Shopify players like have the potential to just have these just really insane overperformances periodically. But that's not guaranteed, and we haven't really seen it. So yeah, I'm gonna say Fly.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap it up for us here on The Dive, driven by Kia. Be sure to subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube so you don't miss an episode of The Dive. Also, leave a comment. Maybe leave one for Mark. He said he'll come back and answer some questions if you have some questions for MarkZ.
Or you could say, don't come back, Mark.
That's a statement, not a question, but you can leave it.
True.
Yeah.
And he probably will ignore it.
Yep. All right. Well, LCS returns this Saturday, May 2nd at 1 p.m. Pacific as C9 takes on Big. We'll see you there.